All right, music fans and fans of other topics, welcome. Harmless Dave here talking real music in real time for real people just like you and just like me. Well, again, this isn't going to be about guitars, drums, bass, or keyboards. This is going to be about how Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons are, I don't know if I want to use the word hypocrites or just difficult to follow. Maybe they're trying to be equal opportunity offenders and defenders. That would be fine if they were consistent about it. Paul and Gene are both Jewish, all right? And they've taken up the cause of defending an actress who is also Jewish. I found this story to be very interesting. The headline, Paul and Gene speak out against cancel culture as they defend fired Mandalorian actress Gina Carano. Now, I don't know who Gina Carano is. I don't know what Mandalorian is, but apparently it's a thing. She is a former MMA fighter who played Cara Dune in the hit Disney show, was dropped in February because she posted something defending her political beliefs and using quite a bit of colorful language and hyperbole. Now, to go out there and worry about someone's choice of words is what the new America is all about. All right. Freedom of speech means the way the founders set this country up, and you can disagree when it comes to free speech, is they knew that egregious speech needed to be vigorously defended because people would call it out as they are now. They're calling it hate speech or wrong think. There are a number of things that they're just throwing at, social media these days, and people are all afraid to speak their minds. In fact, pretty much every major social media platform right now has some moratorium on certain words. Hence, when I talk about the thing. Now, what's interesting is that Paul and Gene have been defending the thing for about 18 months and telling everybody to do the thing. In fact, at one point, Gene Simmons said, I don't care if somebody dies, if they're a moron. That's, I think, what he said. I don't really care. And I'm thinking, wow, dude, that's going to alienate your base. That's going to alienate at least half of your fan base, but you're just out there and you're saying this stuff. And look, they have enough money. Obviously, it's the end of the road for Kiss, whether they like it or not. I'm sure they'll hire some, new people to replace Paul and Gene, and Paul and Gene will oversee the whole process. And, Kiss fans will just go see Kiss like it's some Broadway musical, because that's what it will turn into. It'll turn into some rock version of a Broadway musical with special effects and maybe two guys who actually will be singing out there, which might be interesting. I might actually want to hear what they sound like. Or they'll just keep the canned vocals because people are so used to them. But getting back to this whole, we're going to defend this particular actress, right? Now, Paul and Gene are both Jewish. This actress is Jewish, and I'm not saying they're doing it because she's Jewish, but they go on to say here, they should have kept the chick, meaning Carano, which they should have said this actress if they wanted to be, I guess, a little bit more politically correct, right? Even though she had different political views, it's not about politics. It's about whether you're a good actress. Interesting. A couple of minutes later, Paul, that was Gene, Paul weighed in on the topic saying, look, political views, this whole cancel culture is so dangerous. Interesting. All right. So for 18 months, they've been trying to cancel people that don't agree with them on certain medical things, being very vague because I have to. And anybody who approaches them and says, hey, I think you're wrong about this. Here's some data, Paul. Here's a chart, Gene. Gene, here's what's happening over here that's not being reported. Now, come on, these guys, you would think they'd be smart enough not to just watch like ABC News, right? You would think they would understand that the entire media industrial complex, and this applies, by the way, to the music industry as well, they all sing from the same hymnal. They all have the same point of view. Now, there may be a rogue report that kind of skirts along the edge here and there to make it look authentic. All right. And there are examples of that. There was an interview last year, I think, CBS reporter spoke with Dr. Anthony Fauci. Or I think there was another reporter spoke with Bill Gates and asked Gates some questions that I thought were, wow, you're going off the reservation a little bit. They have to kind of make it look like from time to time that they're actually doing their job. All right, just every so often. Wow, see how tough she was on Bill Gates? And it's just an act, and they know when to pull back, right? Because when people start to think, okay, finally they're doing some reporting, they're doing some real journalism, then they go back to, fluffy bunnies and unicorns, meaning that most of it is just fluff, and it just sticks up for the same cause over and over again. This article is silly because what it does is it tries to paint this woman as somebody who doesn't understand history because she used a very strong metaphor about being compared to, what was happening in Germany, being a Jew. And this is back, obviously, in the 1940s. But here's where I think there are some similarities that people don't want to recognize. When you're told that your political views make you, disqualified, right, to have any sort of presence on social media, which has happened to a lot of people. I don't know why that's happening. I think it is a general sort of acknowledgement that, the civilized people in our world aren't going to put up with this, and these people won't be able to participate in our wonderful platforms where we all have discussions, but we keep those discussions, we color within the lines. You go outside the lines, you're just one of those unwashed deplorables, and you don't understand the complexity of politics or music or healthcare or any topic for that matter. And I think what needs to happen, there needs to be ecosystems that are created outside. And there are plenty of places you can go. The problem is, like for yours truly and others who built their platform, who did all this content, who put in time almost every single day I'm doing content. It's really discouraging. You put all this work into it, and then somebody's just going to pull the rug right out from under you and say, oh, you're not one of us. We've figured this out because of the things you say. You go off on these tangents, you put on your tinfoil hat, you say things that, and this actress, she's another one of those people. Now, again, to Paul and Jean's credit, they're defending her. But at the same time, for the last 18 months, they've been just smashing anybody who doesn't agree with them about the thing that we talk about here on this channel. And they do it in a way that is real demeaning and real nasty. Like, we're celebrity elitists, and this is what we believe. And if you don't believe along with us, then by golly, you're just good riddance to you. Like somebody said to me, or I probably watched it, is when you go to the hospital and you've been to McDonald's like every day of your life for the past 30 years, right? Do they refuse treatment if your arteries are all clogged and you've got congestive heart failure? Do they say, oh, well, look, I see that you've been going to McDonald's. Now, I don't know if they would know that. I think they could look at the person and make a guess, though, and say, this person, they don't deserve to get any service here, because look what they've done to themselves for 30 years. You know, good riddance to them. We're acting really weird as a society and as human beings. I don't understand what happened. It's like last year, some kind of tripwire, somebody flicked a switch and said, okay, we'll go from kind of normal to insanity overnight, and we'll keep running that insanity over and over again. This is why it's a little weird how Gene and Paul are defending this particular person in this situation, but yet half of their fans who disagree with them on something, quite honestly, that I think is far more important, because it will affect this generation and many generations. Politics right now is just like the WWE. You got the blue team, you got the red team, and then you've got the narrator, and the narrator is this big media landscape, and the narrator basically creates the perception, which is then sold to everybody as reality. And then people, it's like the Matrix, like they jump into it and they got their little, you know, their teleporting device, and they teleport in, and they're engaged in that. And what that does is it takes the life force, the energy out of human beings. So they're not capable, number one, of doing any critical thinking. And number two, we're all kind of, you know, yours truly put me in that category. We're mostly overweight. We don't exercise. We don't take care of ourselves. We're told, by the way, if we mess up, then there's a pill or a miracle cure or another product from the pharmaceutical people that will fix what we've done to ourselves. And as much as I, you know, loved social media when it first started, I think it's become very toxic, and to the point where it's, if you're spending a lot of time over there, if you want to check your messages and, you know, message your friends back and forth using Messenger on Facebook, or throw a couple of tweets out there and then just get out of Twitter because it's a cesspool. You can't, if you're going to do this virtual reality all the time, first of all, your peace of mind is going to be shot. You're not going to have any peace of mind. You're constantly going to be thinking, what could I have said to that jerk who offended me? What could I have said better? What, you know, in the number of characters I had, what could I have said to really take him down a peg? You know, and that becomes the goal. I was trapped in that when I first started doing this, and I realized, wow, these people are living rent free inside of my brain. And I don't think that's healthy. I tell people, go for a walk, get out of your house, spend time with your kids, you know, read a book, relax, you know, don't do anything that's too stressful or strenuous all the time. Because even though this isn't literal physical activity and work, it steals your life. It steals your life force, and you've got to somehow compensate for that. And for me, you know, reading articles like these, it's good for the channel, I guess. It's good for people to know what Gene and Paul are saying. They've been very interesting the last 18 months. And maybe they're trying to pivot back because they know that a lot of people don't like them or trust them. And it sounds like they're just another branch of the media, where the media will say, okay, maybe we went too far here. I think the sad thing is the media doesn't really care at this stage. If they're making money, and I've seen this in undercover videos, if they're making money, they really don't care about human life. They just don't. And I think that's the difference in the age that we're now in, as opposed to, say, maybe 30 or 40 years ago, where people, if they found out certain information, would say, okay, this is far more important than let's try to generate a profit some other way, because this is not ethical or moral or decent. But nobody cares about that. There's so much corruption, politics, the music industry. There's so much corruption. I mean, look at the last 30 years, what we can't listen to anymore. Terrestrial radio. Oh, but Dave, you can go to Spotify. I know that. But look what's still out there on terrestrial radio. It still exists. They're still making enough money to keep those stations operational, but yet they will not share the good stuff with people. They have gone down this path, and now, they're committed to it, and they don't really care about demographics and who's got the money and who's willing to spend the money. And that used to be a big concern when I was in radio, is like, what demographic are we going for? And are we going for the people that have disposable income? Or are we just trying to go for those kids who are going to shake their parents down for money? Because that's another consideration. Well, the kids will just keep bothering the parents to buy stuff. In the end, it's got to be a good product. And then you can celebrate with good revenue, because people love your radio station, and they're inspired to listen, and they will patronize the people who advertise on the radio station. But when you just build this sort of esoteric sort of rice cake empire where everything sounds alike and has no substance, so you're reaping what you're sowing. And it's surprising that they're able to continue to make money. I don't see this, though, as a long-term thing, because in 1985, we weren't listening to music from 1945 on any radio station, right? Now it's 2021, and we're still hearing music from the 80s, from the 70s, every so often, maybe one or two tracks from the 60s, which shows you that the art that was created later is not going to be sustainable. Nobody in the year 2050 is going to be going back to 2010 to hear what was big on the radio. I don't think so. Maybe there'll be a very small niche for that. But in the end, it's like the best of what we've done musically has pretty much already been done. And that's not risky to say that. I mean, even Gene Simmons likes to say rock is dead. And it's the industry itself that did the shooting, that did made the death of rock possible. So in any event, long-winded here, went off on a number of tangents. Not sure if it was my best video performance, but Gene Simmons, Paul Stanley, they're kind of contradicting what they've been doing for 18 months by defending this nice person who has different political views. And here's the thing about politics, the advice I would give to everybody. Both political parties are going over the same cliff. They're traveling at different speeds. All right. And some people will tell you things in order to fundraise. Like, one political party will scream and yell about who's doing what on the other side. All of those people get angry. They'll get their credit card out and they'll support those people. And it goes on the other side too. I mean, if somebody says something crazy on either side of the political spectrum, what happens is it's just a fundraising tool for the other side. And what do they do at the end of it all? Do they keep the money for themselves? Yes and no. They campaign some more, and they're always being elected. These elections that happen every 2 years, it's a never-ending cycle, and they have to have donors and they have to fundraise. This whole political system is broken right now. You shouldn't have money in politics at all. At all. Zero. You should have no money in politics. Let me hear your ideas. Let me hear your ideas. If you need to pay for signs, for campaigns, I could see some spending on the basics to get your message out, especially with social media these days. You don't need a whole lot, but apparently these people need millions and millions of dollars. The other point is people from all across the political spectrum, they go to Washington, D.C., and they're not rich people, but then they leave Washington, D.C. after 20 or 30 or how many years, and they're wealthy beyond imagination. These people are supposed to serve. They're supposed to go represent their constituents and then go home. That's the way it should be. And if they can get a job in the private sector and do well because they have political experience, fine. I don't have an issue with that. but there's so much cronyism going on now that it's hard to, know when one thing begins and one thing ends. And then you've got corporations now that are behaving like government entities and throwing down edicts at everyone, telling them how they need to behave inside of their walls. And then everybody from the libertarian side, which I tend to be more, says, well, man, it's a private company. No, it's not. It's not a private company if the government has access to that company and can dictate to that company what grants, what funding, what zoning laws. I mean, you can go all down the line here. All of those things influence that company to make decisions. So it's a partnership between private and public. And again, you can't tell where one begins and one ends. So unless it's a small mom and pop business, right, which we should be supporting, it's probably hooked into the government via some tentacles coming out of whatever government agency, which more or less controls what they do and what products they might sell and what they might not sell, because they might be told not to sell something because it might destroy the narrative about some other product that's being pushed by the government via big pharma. So, wow, I am so done. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you watched the entire video. Please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell for notifications. Don't forget about Patreon for $1 a month, people. That's all I'm asking for. And if I get like 1/3 of the subscribers I have here to do $1, then this channel is kind of bulletproof at that point. And, it's portable too. If I need to move the channel, hopefully I won't, but if I have to, I could do that and have enough to keep going. All right. Thanks again. See you soon.